Hi, I'm Bhairavv.
And I'm Shilpa, and we are at the Museum of Art and Photography in Bengaluru to talk about these really cool sculptures that you see behind us today.
When I was asked to pick 8 objects from the math collection, I only saw the images, of course, of
Yeah.
all the artworks. And these two, I'd seen them and I thought they were actually quite small because
Right.
the similar artworks that I have seen before of this style, they're usually quite small, about just this small. So I'd expected them to be a lot smaller.
Yeah. So you're saying you've seen similar artworks, right? Where have you seen them before?
Normally in souvenir shops or in craft shops.
Okay, that's cool. So what kind of connections did you make between the sort of souvenirs you have in mind and these particular works?
So those also had this kind of colors, like this brass color, and normally like a very dark color, normally black. And they were usually people and doing activities. People doing activities like rowing a boat or reading a book, dancing,
Right.
or a lot of stuff. And those are also made of metal. Normally, like the arms and the legs, you could see those like long wire.
Yeah.
So, and those have like a similar look to these.
When you originally saw these on the website, you also imagined that they would be small. So what is it that you thought they'd be used for?
I thought they would be quite small, so I thought they'd just be used for like decoration on like a shelf in the house or something, or maybe even so small that they'd be used as paperweights, because as you can see, the bottoms of them are flat.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Like, they could be bookends or
Yeah.
something. Now that you've seen them in real life and you see that they're much bigger than you thought, what do you think they're used for?
Maybe to be worshipped, maybe as idols, because there's a man and a woman, I presume. So they'd probably be like kept on like a table or kept in some sort of a worshipping place to be worshipped, because they're extremely detailed. So I presume they have some special significance.
You're not far off. These two figures, the male one is known as Maria or Madia, and the female one is known as Marin or Madin. And they aren't really worshipped. So there's not a lot of ritual significance associated with them that we know about, but they have a lot of cultural significance. So essentially, there is a community called the Gadwa community in Chhattisgarh, and as part of them, they have a clan or a tribe, which would be the Madia tribe. And they believe that these two figures are the first man and woman in their like sort of creation myth, right? The origins of how the world came to be and how it was populated. And they're always seen together.
I was actually thinking that they might have been like very old, like maybe like 100 years or something.
Right.
Because like there's like the decay on this statue, and there's of course all these white patches everywhere. But then as I was doing a bit of research and just reading through the text about the art piece, I found that it was made in 2006, which is just 1 year older to me. So what is that? What is the decay? Why are they made to look so old? Is that purposeful? Or?
No, actually, it's not deliberate. So, like you said, the artworks are not as old as they may appear. The discoloration and all of this, the white stuff as well, is just the metal reacting to the environment around it. So these are actually just salt deposits that are happening because of chemical processes. And it wasn't intended. It's just what has happened over time. So if you look at certain parts, you can see what the original color of it might have been.
Right.
And some of it is just how it ages over time.
Okay. And the artists themselves, because I mean it's 2006, it's quite intricate, and it's very new. I think their name started with a J.
That's close enough. So the artist of this piece is called Bhairavv.
Okay.
And he actually was born in Chhattisgarh, part of the tribe that we were talking about, the same community of the Gadwas. He basically was born into a family that for generations has been doing this sort of work. His son now, unfortunately, Bhairavv is no more, but his son also continues this tradition. So he grew up learning how to do this from his dad. And he's a national award-winning artist. He's won a lot of acclaim for his work. If we look closely at it a bit, you can see that there are all kinds of amazing details, right?
Yeah, I think there's like the separate jewelry everywhere. Like the earrings and all, they're like added to it and everything, right?
Yeah, so the jewelry is really cool because you can see the amount of intricate detail that goes into it.
Yeah.
But this one that you were saying, where it's like it looks like somebody put an actual thing on top of the sculpture, but it isn't. It in fact is actually very much part of the sculpture itself. And if you look a little bit towards the back, you can see that
Oh yeah.
that it's very much in the way it has been made.
Even the earrings are like part of the ears.
Yeah, so every piece of this, with the exception of the top part of that headdress and this feather that you see, has been made in one piece.
Okay.
And these are also cool things to notice actually, because the horns that you see and this feather, which is supposed to be like a peacock feather, are always associated with these two figures.
Okay. And it's metal, of course, but I don't get how they'd make it so intricate. Like the hair, it's individual. You can see it's so intricate. Even the headdress, it's made to look like a thread. And the eyes, the nose, the mouth, it's very intricate. It looks like it's made of clay. How do they actually make it? I suppose they won't like mold the metal or chip it like a marble.
No, so you can't, right? So
Yeah.
like molding, because metal is a hard substance, you can't really mold it like clay. And like you pointed out, marble obviously is chiseled. You can engrave on top of like metal, of course, but you can't really give it this kind of shape or form, right?
Right.
So these pieces are actually made with a very specific technique, which is hollow casting, and in particular what is known as the lost wax method. This is a very time-consuming and like labor-intensive process, right? And there are many steps. So you start first by like sculpting a little bit of a core with clay. Then around this clay core that you've made, you kind of create a wax model.
Okay.
And the wax is what you use to kind of sculpt the actual details. So obviously you carve out all like the hair and other sort of things like the eyes. But it's also really cool to imagine this now entirely as a big wax like bust, right? And that's where you would make the layers. So you'll have to have an additional layer for whatever's standing out. Then the third step is you kind of cover this entire thing now with clay again. So you have a sandwich of clay, wax, clay. And the outer part that you've done when you make it, you make sure there's a little bit of a hole or some kind of entry point. The fourth step, you kind of melt metal. So obviously to very high temperatures when metal is melting.
Right.
Then you pour the molten metal into this hole that you've created. So what happens is that because of the heat and the temperature, the wax melts and melts out. And when you leave it, you cool it, the metal hardens, right, as it cools down. Then you break open and you crack this clay thing, and that actually is what gives you these sculptures. It's amazing because even the really small souvenirs that you were talking about, even to make those would actually be this much of a process, right? And so to make these big ones would have taken quite a lot of time. It's known as Garhwa Kam in the Garhwa community, but it's more popularly and frequently known as Dhokra. So you will hear that word more commonly used by people. It's found practiced not just by the Garhwa community, but also in other regions. So you also see it in Bengal, in Orissa, in Jharkhand, where the same technique is used.
Wow. So even, I'm sorry, I still didn't catch that. Even the small ones that you find in tourist shops, even they go through the whole process everywhere.
Yeah. Even to make the tiniest like figure who's just standing, it takes that entire process and can take quite a bit of time. And a lot of skill, because all of these things with the wax and the clay, they have other substances mixed into them, and you have to know like the right proportions to do it.
And also one more thing, when I compare it to like the souvenir shops ones,
Yeah.
they're not usually as intricate. Like some of them don't even have faces. Some of them, the arms are like they're just wire and they don't even have like a proper palm.
Right.
Why are these so detailed? I found that there were other variations too of Marian Marian. Why is that?
So these two are particularly a favorite of Jayadeva Bhagal's, right? He's done a lot of versions of these. In the map collection, for example, we have this other cool one, which is a bit more abstract, where you see these two figures, the two of them, standing over like a globe, which is kind of interesting if you think about them as the first people.
Okay.
And coming back to your first question about the face and like the details, that's really cool to point out, right? Because these to me look quite realistic. Like, I don't think of them as like a generic figure. Like, I feel like the eyes and the nose it's quite specific. It looks
Yeah.
like somebody's nose.
Yes.
And like you said, yeah, the souvenirs are often really quite generic. But Jaidev Bagal and his son, they're also contemporary artists. So even though this tradition is very old, he is kind of reinterpreting
Okay.
it, right? Using the tradition to do something new.
Yeah.
I think you can kind of see that.
That's cool. I'll remember that the next time I go to a souvenir shop and I see something of Dhokra craft, because I know it'll be worth quite a lot. So maybe, because there's none in my home. There's none in my home of this art style. So I'll probably buy one or two.
Yeah, that's a good plan. Check out the MAP website to see more of Jaidev Bagal's works and other living culture traditions in our collection.
I did already. And you should check out the social media handles and YouTube channel as well. It's really fun.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.